is anchored in the U.S. Constitution. It might be 2 or 3 generations removed, and you can tie it back to the First Amendment or the Fourth Amendment, or ours is solely ingrained within the Constitution. We have a higher calling and more responsibility than the FBI, DEA, Secret Service will ever know, because we control and administer and regulate the firearms industries. So as this is going on, a great outpouring of support came. All right, it's time. We'll just go off script. I can't read that anymore. I can't see it. I don't even remember what I wrote. They're probably lies.
Oh.
All right, so check this out. So immediately my phone starts blowing up. My emails, my texts. What's going on here, Vince? What? This is outrageous. Yeah, tell me about it, buddy. My family's getting tanked. I'm getting tanked. My career, my reputation getting tanked. And it's right here in black and white. So I started becoming aware of the incidents across the country. How many people in here have met or heard of or read periodicals produced by Len Savage? Firearms, the guy's a mega mogul in firearms. He's like the gun guy of all gun guys. He reaches out to me. I knew Len from when I was an agent in Atlanta. And Len and I had to do business. It wasn't always pleasant, but we had to do business. From my experience, Len was a stand-up FFL and a manufacturer, and he couldn't believe. So he started sharing information with me. Excuse me, sorry, I just came off the road and had some Jack Daniels. All right, I had some Jack Daniels. In a minute, this could get ugly enough. We don't need to like pour fuel on the fire. So we collectively across the agency, I start getting calls, emails, communications, shows of support, other abuses, like, oh, did you hear if that's going on with you? Well, obviously, Jay Dobbins, he's my best friend and been my partner for 20 years. He wrote the New York Times bestseller, No Angel. He's been scattered throughout the media, so some of you have heard of him, even if you don't know, you've heard of him. He's been on Gangland and what have you. Well, he became embroiled in a similar situation where his family took death threats and the agency refused to relocate him and follow our protocols for transfer because it was too expensive. Too expensive while they're giving bonuses to the supervisor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we kind of lock arms, and then because of our credibility in the Bureau, people start coming to us. Lots of people, senior agents, junior agents, inspectors, clerical people, and there starts to become a common theme that this is what's going on with me is not an anomaly. This is an out-of-control Bureau. This isn't about a Bureau that has no accountability. So sometime in 2007 or 8, while we're filing, pointless motions and legal briefs against an agency that has unlimited resources and just ignores the legal standards and requirements, we decided it was time to confront the leadership and not do it anonymously like so many of the water. Sorry about that. That was embarrassing. Don't tell anybody, please. If any media's here, please don't show that. I have a reputation. So, we're not even at the foolishness that we're getting ready to get into with Fast and Furious in this debacle. But what we're seeing is a internal, out of control, unaccountable, self-promoting agency where the bosses are now making up 25% of our field agents. We got almost as many agents overseeing other bosses as we do working investigations and regulating the industry. So as a result of this, and we're talking some of the most egregious conduct by a law enforcement agency I have ever seen. We're talking creating false documentation to support their positions. After 25 years of outstanding or exceeds its fully successful evaluations in 1 year, actually 8 days after I filed my first complaint, I was retroactively determined to be unsuccessful. And this was common. This became anyone who spoke up became the target of their attack. Why? Because you gotta quell the rebellion. Well, it became a point where too many people were being affected. Firearms industry, what we do, was being affected. American citizens were being affected, all at the hand of a handful of corrupt leadership. So we created cleanupatf.org. Yeah, write it down. I'm proud to say that website has done more to aggravate the hell out of Eric Holder than any court motion we have filed. What it did was open the floodgates, and it became an open forum for citizens, members of the industry that we regulate, field agents, inspectors, and when people started sounding off with the united voice, which brings me to you guys, change started to come about. We started sharing information, the abuses, the gross mismanagement, the waste, fraud, and abuse became apparent. We started getting evidence of it. No one took pride in this. I don't take pride in this, but it has to stop. They are destroying my agency, and let me tell you, I know there's a lot of FFLs in here who may agree or disagree, but I've spent a lot of years under senior expert tutelage on how to repair and maintain relationships with the firearms community, stay apolitical, stay above the fray with the NRA and everybody else, and just do my job. And I can honestly tell you, I've never arrested an FFL. There has never been a need. There is not an issue that we were not able to resolve that required. That's not to say I haven't been with people who have. That's not to say. I guess the point I'm making is we've worked very hard over the last 25 years to maintain a relationship with the industry, a positive relationship that we are granted authority to regulate. These people are messing that up, these bosses. We can't really put our finger on it this time why this is all happening, where the us and them mentality. We're seeing a lot of press releases, we're seeing a lot of positive news clips and propaganda, but we're all looking at each other going, we're not doing that. We're not, where's this coming from? There's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on. Why? Because budgets are at stake. And we started worrying more about how many toys and how much money we got than how safe we were making the public or how we were fairly regulating the industry. All right, now we're going to jump into how this got really crazy and sort of upset a bunch of our lives. Throughout the process, we had identified certain managers, and there's no need to name them. It's irrelevant. It's just the process that's broken. Voth, Newell, Gillette, Chait, Hoover, Holder, Brewer. Okay, there was a need to name them because it made me feel good. But what had happened, try to give you a visual, try to stay with me here because I don't do this for a living. As this information is coming in, we're compiling documentation of what's broken and how it's broken. And right down each directorate, we're saying, this is broken. We are not doing what we are funded to do, what we're mandated to do, what we're required to do by the Constitution, what we're required to do by law. They wouldn't listen. They began to crank down on those who were speaking. Again, enter cleanup ATF. The media took notice. I did the CNN piece well before Fast and Furious. We put it on the table. Why is that significant? Because if they'd addressed it then, if they would have held these people accountable then, I wouldn't be here tonight. There would be no Fast and Furious. You guys would not have ATF as the whipping boys you now have us as. There wouldn't be the Heller cases and the Reds firearm cases and all the abuse that went on, because we told them this is what the bosses were doing. We just didn't know why. And I probably will leave you tonight still not knowing why, but we may have a better idea as we continue down this road. All right, so as a process, we start identifying, and we're talking pockets. We're not talking widespread, but we're talking corruption. We're talking unethical conduct. We're talking false testimony. We're talking obstruction of justice on totally unrelated issues. Abuse of authority, violation of the EOC laws, Whistleblower Protection Act, internal rules, policies, laws. If you read the OSC report on my friend Jay, they did a scathing 50, 60-page report laying out all the managers who were involved in forcing his family to confront death threats by criminal organization without the agency's assistance. They laid them out. How many bosses do you think were held accountable? You know, I hate to be, state the obvious, but without accountability. Hey, everybody makes mistakes. Nobody was looking for their heads on a platter, but we're talking egregious, outrageous, knowing and willful violation of federal law, federal policies and law.
Happens all
And they were not held accountable. Their careers were not slowed. We were having failed programs within the Bureau.
Yep.
When those programs would be outed by the OIG, the GAO, the OSC, the Internal Affairs, the reports would come out with glaring incompetencies by managers, and those managers didn't lose a step in their career. That, in any other company or agency in the world, failures do not result in promotions or advancement. Maybe some retraining, maybe step back, a demotion, what have you. But that wasn't happening. What does that do? That empowers them to continue doing exactly what they do because they know they're above the law.
Gotta take them out.
Now we're getting to the good part. I get a call in September of 2010, and I hear something that absolutely, in my mind, is black helicopters and lying in your house with tinfoil because Big Brother's
Yep.
looking in on you. I laughed. I said, "You're a moron. Don't ever call me again." And it was Jay, my best friend. And it was that some component of ATF was actively walking guns to the criminal element. It was laughable. We don't do that. I don't know, as doctors would not take out or do needless surgery, or male people would not throw away your mail out of laziness. We don't walk guns. We do not ever walk guns. I was wrong. I reached out to some people in Phoenix, John Dodson being one of them. How many of you have seen the testimony before Congress on some of the Fast and Furious stuff? If you have not, Google it up. You will not believe what you hear. At that point, again, my training, my experience suggests that you handle your business in-house.
Yep.
That doesn't mean you cover it up. That doesn't mean you don't address it. That means you handle it professionally. You bring it to the proper authorities, Internal Affairs, the OIG, in your own house, and when you can't handle it in your own house, then you seek other redress. Again, I think that was the second time I was fired. It was one of the times I was fired. I notified my chain of command of what I became aware of, and a series of transfers and actions occurred. There was an attempt to shut down, clean up ATF. It's just a website, guys, nothing to be scared of. If there's libel or slander on there, sue. But at the end of the day, it's still freedom of speech. If there's sensitive law enforcement information being released on there, confront it. But there wasn't. There was public information, and it started what now may become the Watergate or the Iran-Contra for this entire administration, and hopefully not the end of ATF. Because then what occurred
Why not?
was a series, because they pay me. Because I love ATF. A series of cover-ups, lies, obstruction. I do not know where my leadership, and I don't care about, I care as a citizen,